Hi, my name's Mark. I'm one of the pastors here at Trillium. There's a word in the Bible called sin. And I would say that in the United Church generally, certainly here at Trillium, there's a large number of people who really struggle with that word. It's often seen as a kind of put down, a negative comment put against people, that people are bad people. And somehow that it kind of judges or condemns people to understanding of themselves. And the Bible is very clear that sin is very prevalent in life, and it has a huge impact on us. And that at its source, it represents this separation between ourselves and God. And we were talking last week about rivalry coming out of our likeness. And the Bible says we're so much like God that our rivalry with God has intensified to the point where there's big separations taking place. It's kind of like the two children you have. The child who's most like you is the one you're going to have a hardest time with, not the one who's least like you. It should be the child you have most differences with is the one that's the hardest to get along with. But in the biggest cases, most likely, it's the child you have the most similarities or likeness with. And we experience that. And the Bible says we're so like God that there's intense rivalries developed, at least on our part, and it's escalated into how we live with one another. And people, I find outside the church, even in the church, struggle with this word sin. And it's a word that people kind of move away from. But I don't really get it, because it's pretty obvious to me that even if you're not really conscious of your rivalry with God, you can see how it really reveals itself in life between people. I mean, I was looking at pictures of Aleppo last night, this old, very old, thousands and thousands of years old city in Syria, and how it's been destroyed, trashed by the war going on there between two groups of people, Sunni and Shia, who are so alike in their beliefs and are so similar in their understandings of life. How can people so like each other destroy this beautiful city? And you can look around the world, you can see it in the destruction in Rwanda between two tribes that are very much alike each other. And you can see how it manifests itself in Western history. I was looking at pictures of Stalingrad last night too, just to remind myself that violence isn't just something that happens over there. It happens in Western civilization. I mean, there are 1 million plus people are killed in a battle for a city, and the city is just wiped out. And it doesn't have to be even human conflict. I mean, look around at the ecology of life. I mean, look at what we're doing to the seas, the oceans, the very source of life is we're trashing it. And there's these huge dead spots throughout the oceans, all through the earth. And you just can look at over it. And I'm not trying to make this into a kind of a negative rant or anything like that, but just to kind of bring our understanding. Like, this is so obvious that there's some basic disconnect going on in life. And the Bible says that the key element is our rivalry with God and the conflict and violence that kind of spills out into our lives with each other. And we somehow have to find a way of putting this back together again. And that's where Jesus comes in. We can't deal with our likeness to God, so God becomes like us, enters into the world, and Jesus brings us another way of living, a non-rivalrous way of living. He calls it the kingdom of heaven. And it's based on really something simple, so simple, just perfect love between each other. And the commitment not to enter into rivalry. When those moments come to us, those escalating moments of rivalry come to us, we have a chance to get off the highway and go back to the way of love with one another. If someone slaps you on the face, you have an option in that moment of how you're going to respond. Are you going to imitate them in the moment? Are you going to escalate the rivalry upwards into conflict and violence by striking them back? Or are you going to turn the other cheek or walk the extra mile? I mean, how are we going to respond to life? And the Bible says that in Jesus' death and his resurrection, the rivalry game is over between people and between God and us. And I say to you, hallelujah. That is good news for us. We had a baptism in church on Sunday, and I was struck by the fact that baptism is that marking out of someone for that non-rivalrous life. And that non-rivalry that can live between people. We're marked out as disciples of Jesus to bring out non-rivalrous life to one another and to find the true peace that lives beyond our understanding.